work in a field called early intervention. Early intervention is one of those things that can be so beneficial to young children and their families. And more often than not, when I talk about what I do for my job, I find that more often than not, people don't know what early intervention is, and people don't know what developmental therapy is. More importantly, people don't know what early intervention is because there's a lot more services that early intervention provides, which I'll get into in this video, that can be so beneficial and so helpful to kids. And it's something that I'm super passionate about, helping families endeavor these first few years of a child's life, especially if there's challenges and difficulties, which is a part of early intervention, which again, I will get into in this video. I will start this video and I will start every single video by saying everything I say is a generalized view of child development and shouldn't be necessarily taken directly as advice for your child specifically. You know your child best. You know what you feel is right and what's not right. And if you have concerns about your child in any specific way, the best thing you can do is talk to your pediatrician or talk to specialists that know and work with your child that can talk to you specifically about your concerns. This is more of a generalized overview. I can't speak for every child. Every child is different. Every child grows differently. Every child develops differently. And every child has a unique set of needs. So I just want to throw that out as a disclaimer. If you have any specific concerns or questions related to your child, to seek out those professionals that you know that can answer those direct questions based on where your child is and where they're at in their development and what their individual needs are. With that being said, let's get into this first video. So what is early intervention? Early intervention is a federally mandated program that is run by each state individually. And what it is a set of services specifically for children birth to 3 with delays or disabilities and their families. When I say it is state run, the state decides how early intervention is going to look in that specific state. So while it is mandated across the United States, it is something that will look different in every single state. So we live in Illinois, and so all of the information I have about early intervention and what I know about early intervention is from the Illinois Early Intervention Program. So if you live in a different state, it's best to, and I can link resources below where you can find more information as it relates to your state. And as I go in to talk about specifically developmental therapy, that also looks different across states. So what I will be talking about is specifically as it relates to Illinois. So like I said, early intervention is a system of services, and there are a bunch of services that early intervention covers. The most common that you will see are going to be developmental therapy, speech therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy, social work, psychological services, in addition to others as well. So when you enter the world of early intervention, you can do this in a few different ways. If you know about the early intervention program, you can directly contact what is called a CFC, a Child and Family Connections office. And there are a bunch of those offices all across the state of Illinois, and they're divided. I kind of like to think of them as like districts. So each part of the state is run by a CFC, and each CFC also runs things a little bit differently. We all have the same protocols that we have to go by. We all have the same set of standards, the same set of rules that we have to abide by, but things look a little bit different when you work in between different CFCs across the state. So you either contact that CFC directly, and I will put a link to the Illinois CFC resources below. A lot of times we get recommendations through a pediatrician or through a child care provider, someone who's noticing that something isn't quite right, someone who is knowledgeable in child development, who sees something that might be a little bit concerning potentially. And then there are some children across the state who auto-qualify based on a specific diagnosis. There's a big list of diagnoses that are auto-qualifiers, so they will get information pretty much as soon as that diagnosis is made, if that's made right at birth, if it's made before birth, and they will get referred right into the program without having to seek out that information. So once you get that initial contact with early intervention, you will be set up with what is called a service coordinator. And this service coordinator will meet with you and do an intake meeting. They will get to know you and your family. They will get to know your child. They will ask you questions about what your concerns are. They will get some history, some background information. They will then set up an evaluation. And based on your concerns, they will select providers based on those needs. So if there is, let's say, a speech concern, your child isn't talking like you feel like they should, they're not using enough words like you feel they should, the service coordinator will definitely recommend for a speech evaluation, and there will always be a developmental therapist who will be evaluating as well, just to kind of look and see if the developmental therapist sees any other concerns. They can recommend additional evaluations. And like I said, I'll get into what a developmental therapist is and what they do, but they are essentially whole child development specialists. So we can kind of see based on our evaluation where there could be other potential concerns, if there are any, because sometimes other concerns are underlying that speech delay. So we will look at that, and if needed, we can recommend other evaluations. But the service coordinator will schedule that with you, and they will find the providers, and they will do all of that work for you. And this will all happen and take place in your home. Now with COVID, things have been a little bit different. So there's been a balance of virtual and in-person evaluations. So depending on what the regulations are at the time, they're probably going to be different from when I'm making this video, and they're always changing. So it could happen virtually, it could happen in person. Before COVID, everything took place in the home. So everyone would come to your home at the designated time that you scheduled for and complete this evaluation. And basically, what that looks like is it's a play-based evaluation, and they ask questions, they observe the child, they evaluate the child, and then they have what is called their recommendation. So they recommend what they think services are needed. You create goals and what each specific recommended therapy will basically be working on in ongoing sessions. Usually those sessions happen once a week, though they can happen basically however consistent or inconsistent, whether it's once a month, twice a month, once a week, twice a week even, depending on the need. So, and those goals, you as a parent have a lot of say in. So it's all based around what your specific concerns are for your child, what you want your child to do. Of course, as child development specialists, we will all give our input on what we think the child should be doing, but in the end, it's all about what you want for your child and what you want your child to be working. So we will always be working to put that at the forefront of what we are working on and use that as a way to format our goals as a team together with you included. And that's what I love about early intervention is it's really parent focused, it's family focused, and it's focused in around routines and helping you help your child increase and grow in their development throughout your daily routines. Once the goals are decided, once the plan is created, you will be set up with individual therapists who you will then work with ongoing. And these might be the same as the therapist that did the initial evaluation, and they might be different as well. It just depends on availability. So once the service coordinator finds those providers then contact you and schedule ongoing services for you based on your availability and their availability. And just as the evaluation takes place in the home, the ongoing services also take place in your home. So you don't have to go to a clinic, you don't have to go anywhere. They come right to your home. Again, with COVID, we've been doing virtual therapy as well. And now that things have improved a little bit, we are going back to in-person, but we are also able to do virtual therapy as well, depending on how things continue to go. But it is also just a beneficial thing just to have as an extra method of service delivery. And I'm sure one of the questions on your mind is, if you're going to go through with the service, how much is this service going to cost me? So early intervention is run on a sliding scale based on your income. So most families pay little to nothing for these services. So it is not something that will be inhibited by your ability to pay. And I tried to give this in as little of a nutshell as possible, but basically that is what early intervention is. It is services for children birth to 3 with delays and disabilities and their families. It has been a field that I have been part of for many years now, and it's one that I've fallen in love with. I love helping families. I love working with the little kiddos, and it's just so much fun. We have a lot of fun in our therapy sessions. We try to. Now, on to what I specifically do in early intervention as a developmental therapist. So, developmental therapists are essentially child development specialists. So, we have a plethora of knowledge in all areas of development. This is different from a speech therapist who has specific specialty knowledge in speech development, or a physical therapist who has specific specialties in physical development, gross motor development. We are child development specialists. So we learn all areas of development. We learn the process in which a child develops. And a benefit of developmental therapy is understanding how all areas of development work together and how all of that impacts learning. A lot of our focus during sessions is in relation to cognitive development. So that is play skills, pretend play, that is problem solving, that is attention span, that is classification skills, matching, sorting, ability to imitate actions and gestures, that is spatial awareness, skills that are the building blocks for learning in school. So we do focus in a lot on the cognitive aspect of development, but all other areas of development kind of play into that. And so we need a broad knowledge of all areas of development in order to support that area and support families in helping their children grow in that area. So what do my sessions look like? So therapy sessions are 1 hour, usually once per week, but again, it can range. It is totally play-based therapy. So children learn most through play. And so in order to help them further develop in their areas of concern, in order to help them to grow, we do all of our learning through play. We do all of our work through play. And we work on a lot of different skills depending on what the concerns are. We work directly with the family. We encourage and invite family participation so that when we leave, they can carry over those strategies as well. So I help coach parents as well through the process of, what strategies I'm doing, why I'm doing them, why they help, and help them to do it too. Because 1 hour of therapy per week of developmental therapy is beneficial. But if a family can carry that over throughout the rest of the week, within a family routine, within playtime in general, that is hours and hours more of essentially what therapy would be. So the child will definitely make more progress. It definitely shows that the more families are involved, the better the outcome for the child. So that essentially is what I do as a developmental therapist. It can be a challenging career, but it's also very, very rewarding to see these children grow, to see these parents feel more empowered and more confident in their parenting skills. Parenting is a hard job anyway, and then when you have a child with unique needs and challenges, that can make parenting even harder, because some of that typical advice, some of those tips that you might see on a general basis might not always fit with your child, which leaves you a little bit lost maybe and isolated, because it's a little bit hard to relate to other parents because your needs are different from their needs. So I love being able to empower parents to support their child, to advocate for their child, to educate others on, what their child's specific needs are, and to help them feel better about themselves so they can be better parents for their children. It's a really cool job. And it's one that I never knew existed until I went to college and started my journey in child development. So yeah, that's a little bit about early intervention and what I do as a developmental therapist. I hope you like this. I hope you learned something. If you did like it, go ahead and give this video a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe. Again, thank you so much for watching, and we will see you later. Bye.